In this video, we are going to focus on the Python application, which will replicate the real-time survey response from Qualtrics into SAP HANA Cloud. We are going to deploy it in SAP Kyma and use it as a webhook for Qualtrics. So before we go in and deploy into SAP Kyma, there are some prerequisites. We are going to share the GitHub repository for the same. You should be able to see it as part of the discovery mission. Once you have the repository, you can also go through the README file where we have explained the sequence of implementation. So before we deploy the code in Kyma, we have to make sure the code works fine because there are some parameters which you have to update. So this is the URL for the Kyma deployment, the code repository, I mean. Now let's copy the code repository and try to validate the code using Colab's, the online Jupyter tool. We have shared the URL too. So you have to go for colab.research.google.com. It's an online Jupyter notebook. Copy the URL in the GitHub tab. And you will see multiple repositories. Make sure you select the SAP Kyma repository. Once you select the repository, you will see a new Jupyter notebook. Click Open Notebook. So this is the code which will help you in reading the surveys and deploying it into HANA Cloud. But before validating the code, you have to update some parameters, such as if you see the line 16, it is looking for your HANA Cloud username and password. When you have created the trial account, you should have those logon details. And for the Qualtrics survey ID and API key, as mentioned before, you should be reaching out to the support experts for this discovery mission, and we'll be more than happy to provide the survey ID and the API key. And there are a couple of more lines where you have to update the code, and we have mentioned that in the read.me file. Please replace all the necessary parameters. And also don't forget to get the anonymous survey URL, which you and your team would be able to take and complete the survey. So once you have updated all the parameters, what you can do is you can go to runtime and say run all cells. Then it'll execute the code and we can make sure whether this works or not. Here in this tab, I have the code which has been executed before, and once completed, you should be able to see the status. So let me give you a quick dry run. This is my HANA Cloud trial, and you would be able to see there are multiple responses which was replicated, and here are some messages. So once you have the URL for the anonymous survey or for the user specific survey, go to the URL and complete the survey. So I'm going to complete it now, and let me just give some answer for this at this point in time, and I'm just filling in. It's basically 5 questions and the comment. I'm just going to add a comment which will make it easier for us to see whether we have this entry in the HANA Cloud or not. So I'm just going to add the UCR use case 2802 SAP Kyma test, and I complete it. So once you have updated the parameters, you can go back and execute all the cells. So it's executing now and is extracting all the survey data, the response related to this particular survey, and it's loading into SAP HANA Cloud. It says the status has been successfully loaded. So I go into my HANA Cloud trial, and you already have imported the BTP schema from the HANA development. You should see this table, which may not have any entry. But now that it's replicated the entries, let's check. And there's a new entry. And if I go down and check the response, you would see that UCR2802 SAP Kyma test. It is confirmed that we are able to have the necessary tokens and credentials, and the code is validated now. Thank you.